When my mission to win her over failed, and I was about to be erased by the system, Chloe, still busy preparing for her wedding, finally remembered my existence and came to the villa to see me. Has Ethan learned his lesson? The maid, her face etched with sorrow, replied, Sir, he's already dead. She didn't believe it. Rushing into the bedroom, she found only my already cold body. Before the mission failed, I desperately sent Chloe one last text message asking her, Do you really have to marry Julian? The reply came quickly. Ethan, there's no point in dragging this out. I didn't need to guess. I knew Chloe had typed that with a frown, her brow furrowed with impatience. My heart turned to ash. Resigned, I put the phone aside and awaited death. I watched the countdown timer above my head go from 10 to 0. The system's mechanical voice echoed in my mind. Mission to win over the female lead failed. Host will now be erased. As the words fell, I clearly felt my soul being stripped away piece by piece from this body. The sensation was unbearable, 1,000 times more agonizing than the whippings and torture I'd endured before. I clenched my teeth hard, but pain moans still escaped my lips. The experiences of this life flashed before my eyes like a sped-up film. I was the villainous supporting male character in a CEO romance novel. Yet I was given the script to win over the female lead. To better cultivate our relationship, I chose to be reborn as her childhood friend. For the first 18 years, we were inseparable, our bond incredibly close. Chloe would brave the cold wind to bring me breakfast after a night spent in the lab. She'd fly for a day and a night all the way from abroad just to say, I wanted to see you. Almost everyone, myself included, thought we were a sure thing until the male lead, Julian, appeared. Only then did I truly understand what it meant for a childhood sweetheart to lose to a love that seemed destined. At her 20th birthday party, I confessed my love to her. Unsurprisingly, she rejected me, summing up our decade-plus relationship with, Ethan, I've only ever seen you as a brother. From then on, my villainous persona awakened, and I began to relentlessly pursue her. I also witnessed from the sidelines her tumultuous 5-year on-again, off-again relationship with Julian, which had now finally come to fruition. Failing to win over Chloe meant death. But at the same time, I genuinely loved her. Back then, I refused to believe that 18 years of affection could be overshadowed by a fleeting glance. The truth proved me devastatingly, absurdly wrong. But Chloe, it hurt so much. After the immense, tearing sensation subsided, my body felt light, no longer confined to a physical form. Strangely, I didn't disappear immediately. Instead, a peculiar force pulled me to Chloe's company. Chloe, with her innocent looks, wore a light-colored business suit that made her appear incredibly capable. It's quite ironic, actually, that suit she was wearing. I had tailored it for her myself. I studied fashion design in college, and back then, Chloe was my entire world. I once promised her, from now on, for every birthday, I'll gift you a custom-made outfit. You'll be the face of my brand. She had also promised to invest in me to help my brand go international. I kept my promise. She broke hers. Ms. Hayes, Mr. Sterling, called to schedule your wedding photo shoot. Chloe's executive assistant, Jason, informed her. I know, Chloe replied, placing a photograph face down on her desk and silently standing up. When she left, I was compelled to follow. I watched her and Julian, all smiles and laughter, complete an entire wedding photo shoot. On the way back, Chloe, uncharacteristically, didn't ask Julian to drive her home. The atmosphere in the car was inexplicably heavy, so oppressive it was hard to breathe. Chloe's brow was slightly furrowed, her expression pensive, as if a difficult problem troubled her. After a long silence, she abruptly asked, Where's Ethan? What's he doing today? Usually, my heart revolved entirely around her. I called her countless times, sent innumerable texts. Even if she ignored me, I'd find ways to learn her whereabouts from Jason. This time, however, Jason simply said, Mr. Evans hasn't contacted me at all today. Hearing this, Chloe's frown deepened and she pulled out her phone. Our chat history was still on yesterday's page. Me, do you really have to marry Julian? Chloe, Ethan, There's no point in dragging this out. She frowned, then, as if bestowing a great favor, sent me a message. Where are you? Normally, I would have been ecstatic, chattering away to her, not wanting to make her wait even a second. But this time, 10 minutes passed with no reply. Chloe finally sensed something was amiss and instructed Jason, go to the Hamptons. The Hamptons? This villa was a gift from Chloe when she inherited her company and closed her first major deal. I'd lived here ever since, refusing to move. Even a maid was arranged by her. When Chloe arrived, the villa was eerily quiet. Only the maid was in the living room, busying herself aimlessly. Chloe casually glanced at the empty living room and instructed the maid, tell Ethan to come down and see me. At the mention of my name, the maid's blank expression cracked, revealing an indecipherable sorrow. She looked at Chloe with a mournful gaze and slowly uttered, he's already dead, ma'am. Chloe was stunned for a moment. Then her expression turned indifferent, and she scoffed. Is Ethan resorting to such tricks now? A man playing these games? Though I loved her the bone, I would never joke about life and death. But her trust in me had dwindled to this point. She wouldn't even bother to verify. Convinced I was joking, Chloe, before leaving, told the maid to relay a message to me. Tell him not to come to my wedding. I don't want Julian to misunderstand. The maid's eyes flickered. Her gaze towards Chloe was tinged with pity and a hint of resentment. Chloe spent less than 10 minutes at my villa, arriving and departing in a hurry. She got into the car, agitated. Jason, seeing no one behind her, looked surprised. Ms. Hayes, Mr. Evans didn't come down to see you. After all, the Olmi wouldn't have made her wait a second. Setting aside the mission, it turned out I was just a shameless, desperate admirer pestering her. Ethan, your death wasn't unjust. Chloe's brow twitched, her irritation growing. She warned, don't you ever mention that name in front of me again. Jason looked like he wanted to say something, but seeing Chloe's impatient face, he swallowed all his words of persuasion. I was sitting in the back seat next to Chloe. She seemed very agitated, making Jason drive around the entire city several times. Her red lips were pressed into a thin line. She clutched her phone tightly, glancing down at it from time to time, but the screen remained dark, never lighting up. I didn't know what she was hoping for. Was she still expecting a call or a text from me? Oh, I remembered. Chloe once said I was a rock, that she only felt at ease when I was around. Once, after a fight with Julian, she called me in the middle of the night, asking me to go drinking with her. She clung to me tightly, her face pressed against my chest, whispering, Ethan, what would I do without you? Her tone was tender, as if I were the lover she had yearned for years. That was the closest I ever came to succeeding in my mission. If we had slept together, given our family's relationship, a marriage alliance would have been inevitable. But I didn't want to do anything she'd resent when she wasn't clear-headed. I wanted to stand before her honorably, so I always appeared when she was down and out. I had seen her at her most vulnerable countless times, yet I could never share in her glory when she was triumphant. During her 5 tumultuous years with Julian, they loved and fought. Every time I achieved something, I'd childishly run to her, lift my chin proudly, and provoke him, Julian, you're no match for me. Julian would look displeased, turn, and walk away, his figure lonely and desolate. Chloe would then frantically apologize to him, hovering around him like a child who had done something wrong. And I would stand not far away, staring blankly at the piercing scene before me. For 5 whole years, I couldn't count how many times I'd experienced such scenarios. I thought about giving up, but whenever that thought arose, the system would blare a harsh erasure warning in my mind. Dawn was breaking. The distant, misty blue sky gradually turned a fish-belly white as the sun struggled to emerge. Chloe had waited for me all night, but ultimately she didn't get my plea for softness. She closed her eyes briefly and said coldly, to the office. Yes, Ms. Hayes. Upon arriving at the company, Chloe paced restlessly in her office. Her gaze shifted, suddenly landing on the face-down photograph on her desk. Yesterday, in my haste, I hadn't seen who was in the photo. Was it Julian? They had been inseparable these past few days. Had their longing reached the point of needing a photo to remember by? For the past 5 years, she and Julian had a love-hate relationship, but the one who was always by her side was still me. Before her 20th birthday, Julian came to me and said with certainty, "Ethan, I'll be the one who gets Chloe in the end." I was taken aback, but didn't take his declaration of war seriously. How could that be? Chloe and I had a deep bond. I had single-handedly organized her grand birthday banquet, so we made a bet. At the birthday party, I confessed to Chloe, "I like you." The whole room erupted with applause and cheers of "get together, get together." I waited for her answer, expectant and nervous. But Chloe hesitated, looked out at the crowd, and finally replied with a slightly helpless tone, "Ethan, I'm sorry. I've always seen you as a brother. If I did anything to make you misunderstand, I apologize." In an instant, the crowd's mocking or astonished gazes shattered into a million sharp blades, stabbing viciously at my heart. A silent, invisible murder. I forced a smile, not knowing how to salvage the absurd situation. I thought it was a mutual affection that would naturally blossom, but it turned out to be one-sided wishful thinking that brought me nothing but embarrassment. To make matters worse, Julian had to walk onto the stage, stand beside Chloe, cross his arms, look at me contemptuously, and say, "Ethan, I told you, didn't I? Chloe doesn't like you. You brought this on yourself." Chloe turned and started arguing with him, accusing him of being willful, forgetting that I was still in an awkward predicament. Hayes, Mr. Sterling, is here." Jason's calm voice echoed in the spacious, silent office, startling both of us out of our reveries. "Have him wait outside." Chloe nodded expressionlessly and walked into the lounge. The lounge had a large walk-in closet filled with clothes of various styles, all carefully selected and coordinated by me, just in case she needed them. Now she was meticulously choosing from the dazzling array of clothes. But it was for a date with another man. How ridiculous! All I had done hadn't managed to unlock the door to her heart. Instead, I had paved the way for someone else. Truly a tale full of absurdity and bitterness. Julian, who was supposed to be waiting outside, entered the office without permission and even picked up the photo from the desk. When Chloe came out and saw this, she was furious, her voice sharp. "Who told you you could touch my things?" The sudden anger was bewildering. Julian, after a second of being stunned, reacted and accused, "Well, Chloe, you're about to marry me, and you're still hiding a photo of another man. What exactly do you mean by this? A photo of another man? It wasn't Julian's." Hearing this, I burst out laughing, clutching my sides, so Chloe could be fickle too. Good. Let Julian taste the bitterness I once endured. The two argued fiercely and eventually parted on bad terms. The large office was left in disarray with only Chloe's solitary figure. She bent down to pick up the photo from a floor. Curious, I leaned in, wanted to see who this man hidden in Chloe's heart was, the one who had even outdone Julian. But she deliberately covered the photo with her hand, protecting it fiercely. I couldn't see a thing. I deflated. Then, on second thought, I felt a sense of release. How could a dead man meddle in the affairs of the living? Besides, I was about to disappear soon. Ring, ring, ring. The ringing of a landline phone broke the momentary silence in the office. Chloe followed the sound, her gaze falling on the old-fashioned landline on her desk, a slight smile playing on her lips. She deliberately waited a moment. Then, just as the call was about to disconnect, she unhurriedly picked up the receiver and said, "Hello." The maid's calm, numb voice came from the other end. "Miss, how should we arrange for Sir's funeral?" Chloe, not hearing the voice she expected, frowned impatiently. "Is Ethan addicted to playing dead? You tell him. These cheap tricks won't fool me, and I won't cancel the wedding because of this." The other end was silent for a long time. So long that Chloe thought the call had been disconnected when the maid's voice sounded softly, tinged with a heavy sadness. "Miss, Sir's been dead for a day now." "Then drag him out and burn him," Chloe replied. "Then will you come back to see him one last time?" "No need," Chloe said coldly. "Don't bother me with such trivial matters in the future." With that, she slammed down the phone. I heard everything clearly from the side, a sad smile tugging at my lips. Trivial matters. So my life and death were so insignificant, so unworthy of mention in her heart. I also hadn't expected my own funeral arrangements to be so perfunctory, just drag me out and burn me. It was both infuriating and laughable. Truly worthy of the person I once loved, so decisive. In the evening, Julian, who had been gone all day, returned. He had changed into a more formal outfit and asked Chloe to a candlelight dinner at the upscale restaurant downstairs from her company. Under the bright crystal chandeliers, the sapphire cufflinks on Julian's sleeves sparkled dazzlingly. He gallantly pulled out Chloe's chair. I can let today's matter slide. But before we get married, you have to get rid of everything related to that man. He was confident and flamboyant. His tone wasn't one of discussion, but of notification, even command. He then elegantly cut his steak, no longer looking at Chloe. He had always been so certain, so casual. Just like during their 5 years of on-again, off-again. They never had a truly defined relationship. Looking at his triumphant expression, my memory instantly flashed back to Chloe's birthday 3 months ago. I had given Chloe a cheongsam I personally tailored. After she put it on, she showed it off to all her friends. My brother Ethan made this for me. Our mutual friends also teased, "Ethan, you a grown man, actually learned fashion design. You're becoming quite the model husband material." Everyone was praising me. Only Julian sat in the shadows, his face grim, downing his glass of red wine in one gulp, and said, "Chloe, let's get married." The lively atmosphere instantly froze, and everyone's eyes darted back and forth between the three of us. Julian glanced at me contemptuously, then continued with a victor's air. "I'm tired. I want a home. Are you willing to give me one?" In an instant, my blood ran cold. I stiffly turned to look at Chloe. I saw an undeniable joy overflowing in her dark eyes. Perhaps I had already guessed her answer, but I still held onto a sliver of hope that she would refuse. Unfortunately, fate was never on my side, and, just like that, they were preparing to get married. Now, witnessing a similar scene, my heart was calm. I was no longer interested in the man Julian was talking about. Chloe agreed. They reconciled. They had a pleasant dinner, and then went back to their marital home together. The moment the door opened, Julian eagerly embraced Chloe, kissing her neck haphazardly. He nibbled at her neck and whispered, "Chloe, whose technique do you think is better, mine or Ethan's?" She was already lost in passion, reaching for Julian's shirt, when suddenly hearing my name, her interest vanished. Expressionless, she pushed Julian away and walked alone to the balcony, pouring herself a glass of red wine. Chloe leaned against the railing, gazing at the distant skyscrapers and neon lights, lost in thought. Julian had always been arrogant. With a flick of his finger, a crowd of men would go through fire and water for him. Now he had deigned to please Chloe, only to be met with a cold shoulder, and his mood soured. He came out of the shower, fully dressed, toweling his wet hair. He asked unhappily, "You react so strongly to Ethan's name. You're not still thinking about him, are you?" Chloe downed the red wine in her glass and explained irritably, "How many times do I have to tell you? He's my brother." "Brother?" Julian sneered. "If he were just a brother, would you let him follow you around everywhere?" "Then what should I do? Ethan's parents are dead. I'm the only close person he has in this world." Julian's anger, instead of increasing, subsided. "I hate it most when people like you use the brother excuse to engage in shady dealings. Ethan knows I'm going to marry you, yet he still pursues you relentlessly. He might as well be dead. Save himself the embarrassment." Listening to their argument, I couldn't help but laugh. Julian was quite the prophet. I really was dead. I wouldn't be an issue to anyone anymore. Conversely, it was Chloe who seemed unable to bear such words. Shouting, "Shut up!" Julian felt even more wronged, roaring, "You're still protecting him. Chloe, you don't love me at all." With that, he slammed the door and left. Inside, only silence remained. Chloe sat alone in the living room for half the night. The floor was littered with countless cigarette butts. I didn't know when she had picked up smoking. Seeing her like this, I was genuinely afraid she'd smoke herself to death. After finishing a pack, Chloe, in her slippers, went to look for more cigarettes. She didn't find any, but her hand brushed against her phone on the coffee table. The screen lit up, the notification bar filled with missed calls and unread emails. Scrolling from top to bottom, there was no message from me. Chloe frowned and opened our chat. "Ethan, if you keep this up, I'm marrying Julian the day after tomorrow." Seeing the message she sent me, I found it utterly absurd. What did she mean by that? If I showed up, would she cancel the wedding? But before I died, I had clearly asked her, "Do you really have to marry Julian?" "Chloe, oh Chloe, the decision of my life or death was in your hands. Yet, you wouldn't even give me a sliver of chance to live. Even if you remained a widow for life, even if I never won you over, I could have lived. But you got married, and the system directly judged my mission a failure. Those who fail have no right to live in this world." Without exception, the message sent this time also vanished like a stone in the sea with no response. Bang! Chloe raised her hand and threw the phone violently against the wall. It shattered into pieces instantly. That phone was a gift for me. I had a little ulterior motive. I wanted us to have matching ones. Shattered is good. Shattered is good. I was already dead. It was best for all ties between me and Chloe to be completely severed. The next day, Chloe didn't go to work as usual. Jason came looking for her. "Ms. Hayes, the tulips you ordered from Mr. Evans have arrived. Should we send them over?" Send them. She was a woman. A few words. Isn't Ethan playing dead with me? I'll send him tulips this time. I don't believe he'll still hide. Chloe's tone was confident. I found this quite amusing. How much of a desperate admirer had I been in the past for Chloe to think that sending me a truckload of flowers would make me come running out eagerly? Besides, she forgot I'm allergic to tulips. "Chloe, you really don't care about me at all. You even forgot this." Full of confidence, she personally drove a truck full of tulips back to the Hamptons and had them transplanted into the backyard. The maid came out upon hearing the commotion outside. Chloe, beaming, beckoned to her. "Where's Ethan? Tell him to come out." The maid's eyelids twitched slightly, and she numbly repeated, "Miss, he's already dead." Chloe's face instantly turned cold, her lips drooping in disgust. I can tolerate a joke once or twice, but a third time is just not funny. When Chloe decided to marry Julian, I argued with her for a long time. During the final period of my life, our relationship was almost broken. I was in a state of extreme fear and panic every day. The first thing I did upon waking was to repeatedly ask Chloe, "Are you really going to marry Julian?" She replied, "Yes." For the first few days, she thought I was throwing a tantrum. After a while, she grew impatient and warned me, "Ethan, if you keep this up, you could just get lost." I felt a chill run through me, my body drenched in cold sweat. The system continuously blared death warnings in my mind. 20 days remaining to win over the female lead. If the mission fails, the host will be erased. Please complete the mission as soon as possible. This vast world, I hadn't seen enough of it. I humbly begged her, "What if I told you I would die if you got married? Chloe, even if we can never be together, can you please not get married?" This request seemed absurd even to me. How could Chloe possibly agree? She directly blocked me. It wasn't until Julian specifically requested me to be his best man that she unblocked me. The maid still wore that dull expression, a sarcastic twitch at the corner of her lips. She finally lied. "Yes, sir isn't dead. He's gone on a long trip." Hearing a satisfactory answer, Chloe's face finally broke into a smile. She nodded. "Tell him to come back as soon as possible. I'll allow him to attend my wedding." Haha. Hearing this from the side, I almost choked with laughter. What did Chloe think her wedding was? If she permitted me to attend, I should be eternally grateful, prostrating myself in thanks. "Don't be ridiculous." The maid nodded slowly, promising, "I will. I will definitely bring Miss to attend with him." Having received the assurance, Chloe left happily. Yesterday, Chloe had angrily told the maid to drag my body out and burn it. So, I wanted to see if the maid had actually done it. However, before I could float into the villa, a mysterious force dragged me away, compelling me to follow Chloe. Why, even after death, was I still bound to Chloe? Was I born solely for her? I felt a deep sorrow for myself. In this life, I never had a life of my own, making a girl my everything, only to lose her in the passage of time. The third day after my death was Chloe's wedding. She didn't go to the villa to see me again. Dressed in a white wedding gown, standing next to Julian in his white suit, they truly looked like a match made in heaven. But she was frequently distracted at her own wedding, her gaze constantly drifting towards the entrance. When exchanging wedding rings with Julian, she missed, and the ring fell to the ground, provoking his displeasure. He growled, "Chloe." Who would have thought Chloe would then announce a pause in the wedding? The entire hall was in an uproar. The accumulated conflicts of many days finally erupted. Julian ripped off his boot in the air and angrily demanded, "What exactly do you mean by this?" Chloe whispered, "He hasn't arrived yet." Who? Who hadn't arrived? I hadn't even reacted before Julian guessed. "Ethan, you're waiting for him." Chloe stared at him intently, her voice gentle as she tried to console him. "Julian, just wait a little longer. Our wedding will be incomplete without Ethan." Her expression held a stubborn, almost fanatical persistence. One look and you'd think Chloe was a madwoman. Julian finally broke down, roaring in anger. "Are you marrying me or Ethan? Chloe, do you even love me?" Chloe ignored his fury and continued to wait for me. Just then, Jason strode in and said, "M. Hayes, Mr. Evans is here." Hearing this, a look of relief washed over Chloe's face, quickly followed by anger. Hiding for so long, he finally dares to appear. Jason's expression, however, was extremely strange, though Chloe didn't notice. She abandoned a frantic groom and strode towards the hotel exit. "Ethan," Chloe's face was stern, ready to confront me, but her voice abruptly stopped when she saw the scene before her. I was stunned, too. The maid spoke coldly, "Miss, I brought Sir to attend your wedding. After the wedding, we still have to rush to the crematorium." My body was in an ice coffin, driven over in a car. The maid, she actually brought my corpse to Chloe's wedding. This move was audacious, unforgettable. Ha! I threw my head back and laughed wildly. If I were still alive, I would have definitely given the maid a thumbs up. Chloe's anger froze on her face, her expression twisted and contorted. It took her a while to process the information the maid had given her. Glancing at the hearse parked by the roadside, she sneered, "So, you've gone all out with this act." The maid said coldly, "Sir is right here. Won't you come over and take a look yourself, miss?" His tone was dripping with sarcasm. Chloe stood stunned for a few seconds, then started walking towards the hearse, but her steps were noticeably heavy, as if each one drained all her strength. She moved slowly, almost inching her way to the hearse. Inside the ice coffin, my peacefully sleeping face wasn't exactly serene. After all, I had my soul forcibly extracted before death and suffered considerable torment. Chloe only took one look, and as if struck by a heavy blow, her knees buckled, and she fell heavily to the ground. "Ms. Hayes!" Jason rushed to help her. Chloe dodged his hand, pointed at the ice coffin, her voice trembling. Jason, look again. Is it really him?" "Ms. Hayes, it's Mr. Evans," Jason confirmed. The maid added, "Miss, Sir has been dead for 3 days." She suddenly lifted her face, feeling a cold liquid on it. Wiping it with her hand, she realized it was tears. She questioned, "Then why are you only telling me now?" The maid said expressionlessly, "I've been telling you all along. You were the one who thought Sir was joking, not even willing to go upstairs to verify." Chloe finally understood. She had always thought this was my way of forcing her to cancel the wedding, never imagining it was real. Because in the past, I had resorted to tricks like running away from home and disappearing without a trace. Julian had said, "Ethan is sick. You clearly said you only see him as a brother, yet he still pursues you relentlessly. He just loves using these childish tactics to threaten you, Chloe. Don't be fooled by him." And then she truly listened to Julian's words and refused to believe me anymore. "Miss, I need to take Sir to the crematorium now." After dropping the sentence, the maid got into the driver's seat and drove the hearse away. Chloe was stunned for a second, then grabbed Jason's arm to get up, instructing drive. "Follow them." And so, they chased a hearse down the highway in a $1 million luxury car. I stared blankly at the scene before me, wanting only to say, "Chloe, don't be so absurd." Luckily, I was already dead. Otherwise, as the pursued male protagonist, I would have died of social embarrassment. I floated to the crematorium. I watched myself, once a person, be consumed by flames, turning into a pile of misshapen, ugly ashes, then placed into a narrow black box. At that moment, a mysterious force that had bound me vanished, and I felt my soul become lighter. I suppose I was about to leave. When the staff member came out holding my urn, Chloe instinctively reached out, but the maid snatched it away first. She said, "Miss, sir wouldn't want to go with you." Chloe looked at the maid coldly, her fingers clenching and unclenching several times. Ultimately, she couldn't suppress the overwhelming tide of collapse and despair welling up inside her. "Ethan only has me in this world. He can only come with me." She lunged, crazed to snatch the urn. During their struggle, the urn flew out. Jason's eyelids twitched wildly. He stared intently at the urn, leaped up, and rolled on the ground, clutching it. She and I both breathed a sigh of relief. It had landed safely. My ashes hadn't scattered. I didn't want to be utterly annihilated after death. Seeing me intact, Chloe ordered Jason, "Give Ethan to me. I want to take him home, back to the home that truly belongs to us." These words sounded incredibly ironic to me. "Chloe, that's your home, not mine." Jason hesitated, looking at me, then at the maid, unable to decide. Finally, it was the maid who said, "Sir said that if he died, his ashes should be scattered into the sea. He didn't want to stay in this world that caused him so much pain." Thankfully, there was still one person in this world who remembered my words. For the past 3 months, Chloe had been busy preparing for her wedding with Julian, with no mind to spare for my affairs. The system's daily countdown mission was nearly driving me insane. In the end, I couldn't even tell if my persistent pursuit of Chloe was because I wanted to live or because I truly loved her. Many things were beyond my control. The moment Julian appeared, everything spiraled to an extreme. Often, I couldn't control myself. When drunk, I confided in the maid. "I'm not from this world. In my previous life, I died a horrible, horrible death. I was captured by rebels, whipped with salt-laced whips until my flesh was torn open. They used countless forms of torture on me. Death left too deep a shadow on me. As my soul wandered between heaven and earth, I was bound by something called a system. It said it could give me a chance to live, that as long as I completed the mission, I could live peacefully to old age in this life. What enticing offer. So, I agreed without a second thought. Who was the person I had to win over? It was the person I refused to betray, even in death in my past life. Chloe, I was just an ordinary fisherman who, after a life of drifting, finally married you. You were pursuing your imperial ambitions. While I was waiting for your return, I was captured by enemy forces. I never revealed your whereabouts, even unto death. Yet in both past and present lives, you failed me. How unwilling I am. When did she say that? Chloe's face turned pale as she urgently questioned. The maid looked into her eyes, each word like a stab to the heart. It was the night you went out with Mr. Sterling. Sir personally told me your wedding would be his death day. In the next second, the formidable maid suddenly transformed into a slender, graceful beauty. She held an oiled paper umbrella and glanced at the urn held by Jason. The beauty pointed to my location, her voice bewitching, saying, "Ethan is standing right there. Tell me in front of him, do you love him or not?" Chloe was stunned for a moment, then nodded repeatedly, as if afraid I would miss it if she delayed even a second. She said, I love Ethan. I love him." Her voice grew softer, laced with suffocating despair and pain. This was the confession I had pursued my entire life. But when I finally heard it with my own ears, I no longer cared. I even felt a little disgusted. Truly very disgusting. The beauty sighed softly. "Unfortunately, you realized it too late." She walked towards Chloe, her palm glowing with blue light as it swept across Chloe's forehead. Instantly, Chloe's mind cleared. The information she received simultaneously appeared in my mind. In her past life, Chloe had seized great power, ascended to become an empress, and married the son of a powerful official to consolidate her reign. As for me, her husband from humble beginnings, I had long been forgotten, not even a footnote in the history books. It was my soaring resentment, that had summoned this beauty before me. She had once offered me a lifetime of trials, then eternal life, allowing me to traverse various worlds as a tasker. I refused. I only wanted to reunite with my wife. She sighed. What if your wife is an ungrateful person? I didn't believe her, and so I exchanged an eternity of damnation for this life. Now, what was the difference between me and the mermaid in the fairy tale who traded her fishtail for legs for love? Every step was like walking on knives, an agony beyond words. Only at the end did I regret it deeply. At this moment, all I wanted was to return to the sea that belonged to me. Memories of 2 lifetimes flooded Chloe's mind. The sheer volume of information was too much for her to bear. She pounded her head in pain, calling my name. Ethan, I was wrong. I was wrong. I really didn't know it would be like this. In our past life, it was Julian. He said, "You thought I had no future, so you ran off with someone else. I thought letting you go free was the best arrangement for you. I really never thought it would be like this. It's all what you thought. What you thought. Then why were you never willing to verify it?" I questioned her, incandescent with rage. Amidst the surging anger, my soul actually solidified, taking form. The moment she saw me, Chloe was overjoyed, rushing over to hug me. But she passed right through my body, staring at her empty hands. She was completely stunned. The beauty glanced at her, her eyes devoid of any sympathy, then turned to me and said, "Ethan, your mission to win over Chloe has failed. According to our bet, you will be completely annihilated with no chance of rebirth. Do you accept this?" I accepted. I lowered my gaze. All outcomes were what I deserved. Hearing this, Chloe shrieked repeatedly, "Ethan, I love you. I truly love you. I was just blinded. Just blinded. That's all. I thought you would never leave me." No matter how loudly she screamed, it was futile. My soul was slowly becoming transparent, eventually disappearing completely. The beauty took my hand and vanished as well. Chloe collapsed to the ground, her eyes vacant, numb, and lifeless. Only her lips kept murmuring, "Ethan, I truly love you. I love you." Jason couldn't bear it anymore and tried to pull her up. "Miss Hayes, stop shouting. Mr. Evans can't hear you anymore." The scene just now had truly shocked her, exceeding her understanding. She also felt that Chloe deserved her current fate. There was even a hint of secret delight in her heart. But since Chloe was her boss, she was afraid of being fired and dared not voice her anger. The beauty brought me to a virtual space. Before me was a huge transparent screen displaying the scene at the crematorium. Chloe had gone mad. She refused to accept the fact of my death, rushing in to force the staff to burn her too. "Ethan is going to the sea, so I'll go with him." The staff stared at her with terrified eyes and called the police. Chloe was diagnosed as mentally unstable and taken to a psychiatric hospital. She was a maverick in the hospital, stabbing herself with a knife every day, plunging it into her body again and again without hesitation. Blood flowed everywhere, yet she never died. Every morning when she woke up, her wounds were completely healed. She would laugh foolishly. "Ethan, just how much do you hate me that you won't even let me die?" Seeing her so deranged, I was horrified and asked Serafina, "Will she become a lunatic?" "No," Serafina said. "She is the sole bearer of fortune in this world. The heavens won't let her die. She will only live on fully conscious, enduring the pain of the backlash." Julian heard about her situation, bailed her out of the psychiatric hospital, and took her home. Seeing such a listless Chloe, he was angry at her lack of fight, reprimanding her. "It's just Ethan. He's dead. So what, Chloe? Are you going to abandon your company for a dead man? Do you know how many people will face unemployment if you don't go to work for a single day?" These words were truly righteous, just like in a past life when Chloe was distraught upon first hearing news of my uncertain fate. She had fabricated the lie that I had run off with another woman. After 3 days of dejection, Chloe finally pulled herself together, seized the imperial city in one fell swoop, and achieved her hegemony. Now the scene replayed. A fierce hatred glinted in Chloe's eyes. She raised a knife, and, catching Julian off guard, stabbed him viciously. Julian was still trying to lecture her when his life was abruptly taken. He probably wouldn't understand how he died even at the moment of his death. Truly absurd and bizarre. I averted my gaze, not wanting to watch this heartbreaking scene anymore. Serafina understood my meaning and raised her hand to turn off the screen. She said, "Instead of sinking in love and hate, why not do something meaningful? Ethan, there are many men in this world like you, trapped in a quagmire. Go and save them." Save them? I couldn't even save myself. Serafina smiled faintly. "How will you know if you don't try?" "All right, then I'll try." My heart was like dead ashes. Resigned, I put the phone aside and awaited death. Chloe killed someone. Yet due to her mental illness, she couldn't be sentenced and was confined to a psychiatric hospital. She clutched the only photograph she had of me, murmuring countless times, "Ethan." She said she loved me, that she was just blinded. Unfortunately, it was all just an excuse. If your love for me had been strong enough, how could you only awaken to it upon my death? Chloe, let's never meet again for all eternity.